Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Stein.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. How is it down there in Georgia today?
Very cold and dreary.
It's good,
Really?
man.
Well, that's no good.
No, we just we're piercing various body parts on some of the people on the show to see what the pain was like.
Oh my God! Are you kidding?
Dude,
No.
these guys are stupid, Ben. Just to see what it feels like. Come on.
What parts are you piercing?
One guy got his eyebrow. One guy got his leg right under his shin, and then the inside underneath on the other side of the bicep.
Why?
They wanted to experience the rush.
Because people say that people who get pierced talk about there's a rush that you get from the pain, which I find hard to believe. But
I don't believe it for a minute. I mean, how could that possibly be true? That's like saying people get a rush from being shot. I mean, that's really nonsense.
Ben Stein, what is your tolerance for pain?
Very, very low, except for certain kinds of pain, because I've had colitis all my life, so I can tolerate a fairly large amount of stomach pain. But I have headaches occasionally, so I can tolerate them pretty well. But really, the idea of having your body pierced for no essential reason is just one of the strangest ideas I've ever heard of in my life.
You've never done anything stupid that you knew wasn't going to be good for you just for the fun of it?
A million billion times, but I knew that it would feel good. Like, for example, when I was in college and law school, I used to use drugs, and I knew that was probably stupid and not good for me, but at least it felt good.
What kind of drugs did Ben Stein use?
But just the usual marijuana. But and this was a very long time ago. But that doesn't. I mean, I knew I was going to feel great from that. I didn't know that it was going to hurt. Was not piercing my body. I mean, what's the point of doing something where you know in advance it's going to hurt you, possibly infect you, and it's not going to do anything positive for you?
But don't you think? Come on, don't you think that like the navel pierce is very hot?
Not at all. I think the navel pierce is so mid-'90s, it's insane. It was
Really?
very, very hip here. It's totally out now.
All right. Oh, see, I was going to say, is there something that you think is like hot, but you'd never want it on your wife? Well, George Clooney. But like,
I don't think he's hot, and my wife doesn't think he's hot, so I'm not going to see him on my wife. That's for sure.
like that lower back tattoo that women get. I think
The one that
that's
creeps out of the pants?
Yeah, I think it's very
I
hot, but I would never want that on my wife.
I have a messenger who works for me, a very pretty messenger woman who has that, and I don't think it's even the slightest bit attractive. I think it's goofy looking.
Well, sometimes they make them way too big. It climbs up like half of their back.
Oh my God! It's up more than over more than half of their back. I don't get that. And that's another thing I don't get is tattoos. I mean, no, but I do agree. You do sometimes see good-looking girls with guys with tattoos. That I agree.
I saw you a few months ago on 48 Hours of all shows. This is a very strange story, and you were just talking about your wife.
Well, was it 48 Hours or was it 2020?
I think it was 48 Hours.
You mean the one about my son's computer game?
Yeah, about
obsession?
his
obsession.
addiction to video games. Was that 2020?
I think it was 2020.
All right, so, and they did. He was, I mean, in the true sense of the word of addiction, addicted to this video game. And talk a little bit about that and how that ended up on TV and to what extent he was addicted.
Well, I would say he's still addicted. I mean, there's a video game called EverQuest, and also there's a new one called Day of Defeat, I think, or something. Yeah, Day of Defeat, which is very similar, and one called Counter-Strike, which is very similar. And they are such amazingly addictive games. They have a lot of action. They move your eyeballs and your brain around in such a way that once you start, you really can't stop. And I mean, it's very difficult for my son even to get up from the table to go to the bathroom when he's playing this game. He will play it unless he's restrained from playing it. He will play it for 10 or 12 hours at a time, and gets very irritable and crabby if you try to make him stop. Now, he goes to a boarding school in New Hampshire where they don't let him play it, and that is, I have to say, a miracle of God, and we're very, very lucky we could afford to send him there. Otherwise, I think his life would be just wrecked playing this game.
What happened?
I don't want to pretend it's as bad as being addicted to a narcotic drug, because it doesn't have any physical side effects. But boy, does he get irritable if you try to make him stop playing.
It has social effects. I mean, he's so lost in the game that he can't communicate with you or whoever.
Well, he actually plays it in groups. He has several computers in his room, all hooked up to the internet, and he brings over groups of friends and they play. So there is some sociability to it.
How old is your son?
15 and a half.
15.
See, he'll be the first to develop some hot new game and be a gazillionaire.
Well, I doubt it very, very much.
Ben Stein, who is raising a nerd at home.
No, he's not. Actually, he's not a nerd at all. He's unbelievably handsome. I can say that with a full heart because he's adopted, and I'm not bragging about him. He's very, very handsome, and he's a very, very good athlete. See, at the school he goes to, where they won't let him play the video games, he is a big wrestler and a big football star, and really, really, really good at it. But once he gets back here for vacation, he just plugs himself into that computer and won't let go.
Well, this whole thing with your son is really mind-boggling because, I mean...
It's unbelievable. I mean, some brain chemistry is very similar to the use of drugs because when he's doing it, he really has a very hard time stopping.
And when you took it away from him, what did he do? I mean, because isn't that what you do to a kid when he's doing something bad? You, take the toys away?
Yeah, what's his reaction?
Well, we don't take it away. We just tell him he can't play it. And he doesn't disobey us. He does stop playing it, but he gets very, very, very crabby.
Well, he's a teenager. That's how they get.
Ben, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The best of the Morning X. 99X.